Hello, thanks for tuning in. I thought it was time to make another astrology video. I also think it's time to cut my hair, but I tried to make myself somewhat presentable for this video because I'm on camera this time. I want to talk about something that I've never really talked about on this channel. I've never really talked about this particular kind of thing. The elements in astrology are important. They're like an indication of like vibe or energy and temperament, fire, earth, air, water. The combination of what elements you have prominently or don't have prominently do matter. It gives kind of an indication, and it's just another way of understanding the symbolism of the different signs and the positions in which you have planets and things like that. So it's just a way to understand on a deeper level, but also not just on a deeper level, because I think when you're just starting to learn astrology, a lot of people probably do learn about the elements. It's probably one of the first things they learn about, like what signs are in what elements and things like that. So it is like a fundamental thing in astrology, but it's a fundamental thing that actually matters on a deeper level as well. And I wanted to discuss it a little bit, particularly in relation to, as you can see in the title of the video, which I haven't thought exactly what I'm going to make the title of the video, but I know what I'm going to talk about. So I want to talk about having a lack of air in your natal chart. So if you or someone you know has pretty much nothing prominently in Libra or Aquarius or Gemini, what does that mean? How can that show up, right? So I'm talking about the biggest thing is like having the sun or moon or rising or Mercury, Venus, Mars in a sign. That will make it more prominent, but also any planet, Jupiter through Pluto, everything. Like if somebody really doesn't have any of those things, that would be especially relevant to them. But you might just have like Pluto in Aquarius or something and not have any other air planets. So that's also going to be pretty significant, because none of your kind of inner planets are in air signs, right? Enough rambling. Let's get into it more. So I know from experience that people who have a lack of air in their chart, they can be very much focused on like one of the other elements, like earth or water or fire. Their inclination is not towards air themes. So from personal experience with people with lack of air, I know that their general temperament or their motivation, their energy, is less to do with air themes like communication, like building relationships and having kind of doing that on a regular basis and putting focus into that. They might have a relationship, a romantic relationship, they might have friendships, but it's not like they're not like intellectually focused on like the sort of communication between people and stuff like that, right? So they can be less inclined towards even things like intellectual activities, such as like even like board games, or in some cases reading. Although I know somebody who doesn't have air and she likes to read a lot, but she's not, even if she reads a book, she doesn't like talk about it in like an intellectual way. She's more earthy. She has a lot of Taurus. She has Virgo. So she's inclined to want to kind of talk about things practically and talk about the practical things. So she might indulge in air sign activities like reading or watching a documentary or something, but she's not going to be necessarily focused on like discussing these things in like an intellectual way. Like, she doesn't have Gemini, for example. So, Gemini is very communicative, versatile, wants to like learn and like communicate concepts and like have that dialogue. And same with Libra, same with Aquarius. They all have their own ways of doing it, but they're all interested in like human relating and dialogue and what you can get out of that. So people with with a lack of air signs, they can kind of be more focused on practical things or more emotional things or just getting things done, like depending on what other elements are more prominent in their chart. But a lack of air, yeah, I would consider it as somebody who, like, you still have air houses. Like everybody has all these elements in them. It's just fundamental to life and human nature. But it's the case that like we have less focus and we have more focus on some parts of these than others. Some parts are more prominent for us. Like there are types of people. There are different experiences that people pull from. So some people have more of certain experiences, right? And some people are a certain type that other people are not. So like there are types and there are types of life experiences as well. Some people are more focused on, action. Some people are more focused on doing intellectual activities. Everything just is, it's all part of us all, and it's part of life as a whole, but it's what we are tuned into that matters. So people with lack of air, they're not as tuned into having intellectual conversations, maybe, although it can vary. Like, don't come kind of biting my head off about that I know somebody who doesn't have an air sign in their like none of their planets are in an air sign, but they're love to have intellectual conversations. They might have some aspect that is inclined towards that. But when we're talking about the energetic wiring of just the elements and the planets and signs, I have observed that people with a lack of air in that kind of way, they can just, they're not as intellectual, they're not as inclined to getting involved in like the intricacies of debating and communication and like, how can I express my thoughts about this matter in a way that inspires dialogue. I have Mars in Gemini, so I'm very much about, as much as I'm pretty quiet as well in a lot of situations, I actually like to talk about things that, obviously, like on the channel, like I like to talk about things that interest me and that anybody does, but I'm very like intellectually wired in that way. So I like to talk about things that I've been thinking about. It's that Mars in Gemini that the Gemini part of me that I see is one of the parts of Gemini that I see in myself is the kind of the dialogue and the wanting to express my views and my thoughts. And so somebody with no Gemini and no Libra or Aquarius, like they just have a tendency towards other things, and you have to look at what elements are they more prominent about. So they might be more earthy or fiery or watery. But a lack of air, it doesn't mean that they don't have any intellect or that they don't have any thoughts about things or views or that they don't communicate. But I have observed that people with a lack of air that is significant in their psyche can be less inclined towards just intellectualizing, conceptualizing abstractions. They might be less interested in certain activities that have to do with the mind, or like I know in one case, a person in my life who doesn't have air, planets in air, and nothing like that, is very. She's very straightforward in her communication style. She doesn't meander. She doesn't go off in the air, so to speak, literally. like intuitively, you know, bringing together concepts. She would just say what she means. She doesn't want to have small talk, which I know a lot of people don't like. I don't like small talk either, but I'm still, even though I don't generally like small talk, I can still sort of talk about things in like a meandering way. Whereas I feel like this person who doesn't have air is very specific in the way she speaks, which I appreciate. I have that as well in a certain way, in certain situations. But I think it's just like, you know, I'm going to just say this and this. I don't want any fluff. Air can be, you know, airy, fluffy. Somebody with a lot of Aries, somebody with a lot of Gemini can speak a lot, and it's often more just the process of getting this information out and maybe dialoguing as well, but it's less about, you know, saying something specific, because it's not motivated by action and like consequence the way like air might, or sorry, the way that fire might be. So fire wants to have a result and like wants to get going and do things, whereas air is just intellectual, it's intuitive, right? It's like water is intuitive as well, but in a different way. I think air is intuitive in the sense that, you know, the people who are very airy, they want to, you know, discuss and intuitively, you know, even if they don't agree necessarily with everything that they're saying, but they just want to bring about different concepts. And like my Gemini as well is like that, my Mars in Gemini. You know, just I will talk and debate about things if I feel comfortable. I don't always debate, but, you know, I will talk about things even if I don't necessarily want any result from it. I just want to talk, and I just want to like express my view on something and hear what other people have to say about it as well, and bounce off that. And it's not about getting things done, although I have fire as well. But see, like I feel like I'm very airy now, because I feel like I could go on and on about something and then see the other side. Like, you know, so like I have fire, so I am results driven as well, and action oriented as well. But I think it's because like we all have all these elements, so you will see all of them to some degree in yourself. But I think it's also like how they are expressed in you. So the signs, or the signs and the planets interact. So the sign is the coloring, and the planet is like what is the thing that we're talking about. So Mercury in Gemini, Mercury is getting expressed through a Gemini clothing, so to speak. So Mercury wants to talk and communicate and express views and ideas, and so in Gemini that is heightened actually, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. But you know, it's just about like we all have these elements, but if they're not being colored by a sign, then they're just a bit less, or sorry, if they're not getting colored by a planet, so to speak. Like if a planet is not in any of in an element, that element is just not being expressed through any planets. It's still there in you. You know, there's air houses that you have and stuff like that, and if you look, you might have like Chiron in Aquarius or something. But if you really have no air in terms of planets and like Chiron and the nodes and things like that, or ascendant, then your air is, I don't know how to explain it. I probably have to do more research, but like I think with just a lack of air, it's not getting colored by anything. Like you're not living out air as much as somebody who has planets in air signs. So this person that I was talking about earlier, I can visibly see that she doesn't embody air. She embodies earth and fire, a little bit of water as well, but she doesn't embody air. She has air because we all communicate, we all talk, you know, we all think, we all want to make connections with people and with between ideas. We're all intuitive, like we all have intuition, but it's not. If you don't have an air like signs, planets in air signs, then it's just not getting. You're not embodying the air then, and so it can be somebody who, because they're not embodying air, They can be less talkative, less into small talk, less into making intuitive connections. They might be more practical, less into just talking nonstop about random things. They may not be interested in that. This person that I was talking about doesn't like to play board games. She doesn't want to play like Scrabble. She's not very good at like thinking in terms of like concepts when it comes to like words and like putting letters together to form a word. She wants to get on with it. She doesn't want to intellectualize and do like these abstract things. And there's other reasons for that as well. But I think those reasons are explained by her having a lack of air, because there's other reasons why she doesn't want to do those things. But our natal chart is showing us a reason, or like it's a blueprint of everything that we go through in our personality. So whatever you go through, whatever you're embodying, whatever your personality is, there are parts of it. Every part of that is going to be reflected in your natal chart in some way if you look. So she might not want to do abstract things because, let's say she's a sensor in Myers-Briggs or something like that. And that is reflected then in her natal chart as well. So there's just different systems through which you can view every trait that somebody has. And, it's just about not overwhelming yourself, I suppose, with all these different systems and things like that. But when it comes to astrology, because I don't want to go off topic too much, but if we're talking about astrology, lack of air can be the indicator of somebody who's not into like abstractions and communicating conceptually and intellectually. Somebody who's not into board games or even reading or watching a lot of documentaries or like non-fiction stuff. Somebody who wants to get on with things more than kind of hang in the air and be intuitive and make connections. And relationships can be less of a focus, in the sense that like Libra is very relationship oriented, Gemini is very communication oriented, and Aquarius is very like the people, the collective oriented. So if you don't have a focus on any of those things, any of those signs, then it's just, you're not embodying those things as strongly as somebody who has planets in those signs. Yeah. I hope this made sense. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and do leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and subscribe if you want more from me, because I will be making more videos. It just takes time sometimes. So yeah, thank you.